The following lists have been put together from all types of cameras that we have fully reviewed and offer a guide as to the best you can buy for low light use. This can be judged from the ISO shots provided. However, do bear in mind that ISO is not the full story, so the reviews as a whole take into account many other parameters to help in finding the perfect camera for any particular purpose. The first ISO figure shown below indicates the point at which some noise starts to become visible. Images then show gradually increasing noise until a point is reached where edges become indistinct or feathery and noise becomes unacceptable for anything but emergency use. This point is indicated by the second ISO figure quoted. The figures quoted are of course a judgment, and the original ISO test shots are available to view in every full review. Individual photographers can then judge for themselves and take into account their own personal requirements. In this guide, we've separated the best low-light cameras, all reviewed by fAutoZine and currently available to purchase, into 7 sections, so you can easily find the camera that's best for you, and these are: full-frame DSLR, full-frame mirrorless, APS-C DSLR, mirrorless APS-C, MFT-M4T, serious compacts and waterproof cameras. Are you looking for the best keyword? In this video, we will look at some of the best keyword on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description, so make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. Canon EOS 5D Mark IV. The Canon EOS 5D Mark IV is a highly competitive full-frame digital SLR that is extremely desirable, with excellent image quality. At the lowest ISO setting of ISO 50, dynamic range is reduced. Noise performance is very good between ISO 100 until ISO 6400 when some noise starts to appear. ISO 25600 is most likely the highest ISO setting you'll want to use without applying further processing to images, as noise becomes much stronger at ISO 51200, and at this setting, you're best resizing the image or converting to black and white, or both. The ISO speed goes up to ISO 102,400, and this setting is best avoided. Noise performance is similar to the Canon EOS 5D Mark III, although, at higher ISO settings, including ISO 25600, there is less chroma noise, colored patches of color, in the 5D Mark IV images. Processing 5D Mark III RAW images with the latest version of Adobe Camera Raw is likely to get equally good results. Noise performance at ISO 25600 is better than the 36-megapixel Nikon D810 and Pentax K1, and very similar to the 42-megapixel Sony A7R Mark II, which goes to show the benefits of BSI CMOS sensors. Noise reduction options are off, low, standard, high, and if you're shooting JPEG only, then there is a multi-shot noise reduction option. We took these shots with high ISO speed and are set to standard, which is the default option. Number 2. Canon EOS 1DX3. The Canon EOS 1DX Mark III is designed for professional sports and wildlife photographers, and for those who have the budget, it delivers perfect results. The standard ISO range goes from ISO 100 to ISO 102,400, and this can be extended down to ISO 50. Low, and up to ISO 819,200. Noise reduction settings are disable, off, low, standard, default, and high. We took these shots on the default setting for the lowest noise and best detail possible. We would recommend using ISO 50 to ISO 1600, as images have low levels of noise and good levels of detail. For lower light situations, ISO 3200 to ISO 25600 still provides good results, although noise increases and detail is reduced, with fine detail going at ISO 6400. At ISO 51200, noise levels become strong, and we would recommend avoiding this setting if possible, although results may still be useful if resized and used on the web. Above ISO 102,400 is best avoided as noise is extremely high and detail is very low. Color saturation remains good even as the ISO speed increases. Number 3. Nikon D780. The Nikon D780 offers exceptional image quality, excellent battery life, and a tough weather-sealed DSLR body. The camera offers an extended ISO range, with speeds down to ISO 50 available, albeit with reduced dynamic range recorded. Noise performance is excellent from ISO 100 all the way up to ISO 3200. It's not until ISO 6400 that we start to see a slight drop in fine detail, with a further drop in detail at ISO 12800. Noise performance and control at these ISO speeds remain excellent, with generally low levels of noise and a fine grain look to noise that is visible. Noise becomes more visible at ISO 25600, but the camera still produces usable images. At ISO 51200 there is a drop in color saturation, and you may not want to use these images without further processing or resizing. ISO 102400 Hi1 and above show the highest levels of noise, as well as a visibly processed image, so these settings may be best avoided. There are high ISO NR, noise reduction, options of high, normal, low, and off. We took these on the default setting of normal. The D780 gives noticeably improved noise performance compared to the D750, with much better detail at higher ISO speeds, ISO 3200 to 6400, and higher ISO speeds, ISO 12800, ISO 25600 and beyond, are vastly improved. Number 4. Nikon D850. The Nikon D850 does everything you could ask of a digital SLR. Whether you want high-resolution images or high-speed shooting, it will do both without complaining. For the lowest noise and best detail possible, we would recommend using ISO 64 to ISO 3200, as images have low levels of noise and good levels of detail. Noise is extremely low and doesn't really begin to show up until you reach ISO 6400. ISO 32 shows a lower dynamic range. For lower light situations, ISO 6400 to ISO 12800 still provides good results, although noise increases and detail is reduced. ISO 25600 still shows usable results, with good noise control depending on your intended use. At ISO 51200 noise levels become strong, and we would recommend avoiding this setting if possible, as color saturation drops off, although results may still be useful if resized and used on the web. ISO 102400 is best avoided as noise is at its highest. High noise reduction options available are off, low, normal, and high. We took these photos using the default setting of normal, and users of previous Nikon DSLRs may want to reduce this to low, as the default setting has quite strong noise reduction. The D850 gives improved noise performance when compared to the Nikon D810, whilst also giving increased resolution. The D850 offers similar performance when compared to the Sony Alpha A7R Mark II, which also features a full-frame high-resolution BSI-CMOS sensor. Number 5. Nikon D6. The Nikon D6 is a flagship DSLR for Nikon professionals, and its size, speed, battery life and toughness will be ideal for Nikon users. Noise performance is impressive, with clean images up to ISO 3200-6400, with even ISO 12800 showing excellent results. Although fine detail is lost, some noise starts to creep in at ISO 25600, but it's very well controlled. ISO 51200 should give you usable images, depending on your needs. ISO 102400 could potentially be useful, but is likely to need further processing. At the higher Hi1, Hi5 speeds, noise is strong and weird, and these speeds are best avoided. Noise reduction options are off, low, normal, high, and these were taken with the camera on the default setting of normal. Number 6. Pentax K1 II. The Pentax K1 Mark II performs well and offers good value for money, with a number of unique features. The camera's ISO range goes from ISO 100 to ISO 819,200. Noise is low from ISO 100 to ISO 3200, with some more noise creeping in at ISO 6400. At these lower ISO settings, you may want to use the custom noise options to set the camera to lower noise reduction, to retain as much detail as possible. However, we'd still be happy using the camera at ISO 12800, as noise is quite grainy, and some would say film-like, with very few red, green, and blue dots spoiling the image. Noise performance at ISO 12800 is reasonably good, with a slightly better result from the Pentax K1 Mark II when compared to the K1, and raw files also look better. At ISO 25600, noise becomes stronger, and we'd recommend avoiding this setting and higher, unless you are going to process the raw files yourself or resize the images for use on the web. ISO 51200 may still provide a usable result, just about, if you process the image further, but noise gets quite unpleasant at ISO 102,400 and above. At ISO 409,600 and above, images look awful, and unless you're shooting in the dark as a pie, then I doubt you'll ever want to use this setting. Noise options include show shutter speed NR for slower than 1 second, auto on, off, and high ISO NR. Auto, low, mid, high, custom, off. Custom lets you choose how much noise reduction is applied at each individual ISO setting, and the options are off, low, mid, high.